What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about episode 1 of season 2 of The Purge, entitled This Is Not a Test. Now, before I get into what I thought about the episode, I just have to say, man, I was screaming, literally screaming at the screen during those first opening minutes of this episode, because I wasn't expecting this audition that was taking place to be the audition for the announcement of The Purge. Man, that was pretty awesome. I mean, honestly, that's probably one of the best things about this Purge television show. As I said last season, after every single episode, the idea that we're getting to dive a little bit deeper into this universe, to understand what makes the new founding fathers tick, and all of the people who live in this America, what do they do on all the other nights of the year. That's one of the biggest draws for this season, and one of the reasons I'm more excited about it than I have been for not only The Purge 5, but also the last season of The Purge. Because if you guys remember, the last season of The Purge took place primarily on Purge Night. This one is going to, or at least it's promising, to take place during the other 364 days a year. The first episode was just kind of the last 2 hours of that particular year, and we're going to be leading into another Purge night. The big theory I want to drop here before we get into what happened and break down what we liked and what we didn't like about this episode is this whole season going to be leading into the events of the 5th movie? If that's the case, that would be pretty cool, but we can talk about that a little bit more later. Overall, though, this entire episode was a huge win for me. Not only was that jaw-dropping beginning, like, oh my gosh, that's so much fan service right there, but then they kept the momentum with everything that they did throughout the episode, introducing all these interesting characters and the promise of a broader world and more mythology for the rest of the season. I'm incredibly excited, and why don't you go down to the comment section and tell me what you think about it before we go into the breakdown. Because these Purge television shows are set up in such a way that it's more of an anthology series dealing with the lives of several different people during the events that are taking place, we're going to break this down character by character instead of going plot point by plot point and breaking up all the stories so we can get a fuller picture of what is going on here. So we're going to start with Esme and the new founding fathers surveillance center in New Orleans. It does seem like all this stuff is happening in New Orleans, and we're going to be primarily staying there throughout the entire season. I like Esme as a character because she kind of feels like a character that we're going to be following throughout this entire season, who has at least an upper hand or some kind of relevance in the new founding fathers because she does this every single year. She can use all of the technology that she understands to her advantage and understand what the bigger mystery is here. Her and Vivian, who is a brand new character, or at least a brand new person in the surveillance team, are probably going to be working together throughout the remainder of the season in order to figure out some bigger mystery. Pretty much her story throughout the entire episode was dealing with the death of one of her mentors named Drew Adams, who was a professor who was killed because she was hiding some kind of files or whatever that really was. We're not entirely sure, but that's going to be the main mystery of the season going forward. And then, as I said, we got to see Esme kind of use her power to sneak the footage and save it so she can study it later, and that the new founding fathers have literally seen her do this, and she's probably going to be the target for next year or maybe throughout the entire year. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but I really hope that they focus a little bit more on Esme and Vivian's character for the rest of the season. I would really think that this would be a big leg up on the whole Miguel story that was the driving force throughout last season, because if you watch my reviews for last season, I just was never involved with the Miguel story. I never thought that that was the strongest thing that they could have been doing, but the fact that it was the driving force throughout the entire season really kind of fell flat for me. But these two characters and what they can do and their position in the new founding fathers, at least to me, is new and interesting, original enough that I can't wait to see what happens with these people. Next, we're going to go to Ryan and his gang of bank robbers. So I've talked about this before on this channel. I love the idea of The Purge, and I feel because it's a horror movie, a horror thriller, whatever they really tried to do throughout the entire movie franchise, they have slept on this concept that all crime is legal. They jump directly to death, and everybody in the United States is literally a murder machine, shooting each other from their balconies with machine guns and all this other stuff that we saw in this episode, and we've seen even worse in the movie content. So that has always been a thorn in my side as a fan of this entire series. We need to see people go through these motions and try to steal things from other people. Banks, stores, just looting in general. We saw a little bit of that in the first Purge, but we're really going to be focusing on the underground side of it in this season, or at least I hope that's how we're going to be focusing with Ryan and his team. And the thing that really stood out to me here is, why is the bank putting rent-a-cops to protect the bank vault that's filled with money during Purge Night. You would imagine that they would hire semi-military like people to go out of their way and try their best to protect all this money. Now, that could have been answered with the fact that they moved all the money to another remote location and that's why it's filled with ones. But we haven't really explored that yet. Maybe in next episode, but we're going to have to wait and see. Another cool concept that they introduced here was the idea that these Jekylls will come in at the very last second and take stuff that people have already stolen. And there's this awesome showdown between Ryan, his team, and the Jekylls that ends up becoming more of the firefight, big showcase thing this episode. And I really did appreciate that. Like I said, one of the best things about this entire show is that we're exploring the mythology and the way that this society works every other day in between. But ultimately, Ryan's story ends in this episode with Tommy, one of the hotheads, and his crew going back into the bank as the alarms are sounding and Purge Night is ending to get the money that they left behind. And going back to Esme, they realize that Tommy did not make it out of the bank beforehand. It's a felony and they're going to come after him. Now, what that means for Esme, Ryan, all the files and everything else like that, we're not entirely sure. But if I had to guess, I think that Esme is going to look up Ryan or Tommy or someone else to help her figure out what these files are, and they're all going to end up working together, hopefully a little bit quicker than they did last season, where it took everyone so much time to get together, literally almost to the very end of the season. Let's get everyone working together almost immediately, and we'll take the stragglers as they are. Then I really want to talk about Marcus and Michelle, the court-ordered, appointed, helpless home invasion couple of the Purge Night, or at least the Purge franchise. We need these people every single season. We need these people in every single movie, so here they are. It's a staple. We're just going to have to live with it. The interesting thing here, though, is Marcus seems to have a past. I mean, but Michelle seems to be his second wife. He's had a wife before, and he had a son, or at least another child. I can't remember off the top of my head whether it was a boy or a girl, or whether he even said, but what is his past? What does this mean for the guy who broke in and was hunting him? One of the big things that they've been talking about, or at least showcasing in the trailers of The Purge, is that these characters are coming after them. Not just during the Purge Night, but throughout the entire year. They're hunting them down. What does this mean for Marcus? What does this mean for the broader universe of The Purge? We're just going to have to wait and see. Finally, we have Turner and Ben going to a suicide bridge as a tradition for their fraternity, maybe as a way of getting in, like this is Hell Week or something like that. I'm not sure. And kind of skipping over almost everything else that's happened, they get to the bridge, they take the picture, but then Ben hears a woman crying out for help. He goes to help her and ends up getting trapped with a guy who's there to kill him. The guy instantly kills the girl in order to kind of assert dominance. And then it's really clear why he set this trap up to begin with. He was trying to get a man to come help this helpless woman so he can sexually molest the man. And okay, first and foremost, the guy with the knife, is it just a staple here? Maybe it was in another movie. I know it was in the second movie, but maybe it was in another movie or something where someone's wearing a god mask. Is that like a hockey mask or a scream mask in our world or something? Like a lot of people wear this silly mask, or is that just kind of a wink and nod to the movie franchise? I'm not sure. But ultimately, the whole scene was just brutal. Literally having Ben's character take the knife out of the woman and stab his assailant to death, and stabbing him as the alarms are sounding, and realizing that his character development throughout the entirety of the season is him dealing with this night and what he had to do to survive during Purge Night. Because one of the things they were showing throughout the entire episode is he's just not having it. He has no intention, he had no thrill to go out and purge or do anything on this night, and yet he got caught up in it and he had to protect himself. So I can't really wait to see what they do with his character. I don't know how all these characters are going to start connecting, whether the mystery between who was hunting down Marcus and the files that they were looking for are any way connected. I mean, hopefully or probably they are, because these characters were introduced for a reason. But having Esme work with Ryan, I think, is a given at this point. And then maybe Ben is going to be the big guy at the very end. If we're going to get all the way to next Purge Night, this guy is going to be so mentally scarred and damaged that he's going to go after all of them, or he's going to trap all of them, kind of like what we saw last season. But either way, I have to say, it was a good first episode of the season. I can't wait to see more and what they do with it. Hope everyone is having a fantastic day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. It's been real.